Hello, my name is Christopher Holmes, and I want to welcome you to this PL webinar where we will be focusing on technology integration. As a curriculum specialist, we travel around the state looking at best practices, and as a team, we decided that technology is one of those areas that we want to focus on this year to help move students and teachers forward to increase achievement, increase understanding, and increase learning opportunities. So in this video, we will be talking a little bit about the previous session that you had on technology integration, which was led by Mr. Kim Holly of Rockdale RYDC, as well as Mr. Calvin Leaks of Metro RYDC. So without any further ado, let's jump right in. So there were three sessions total that were shared with you at the last training session. One was over the instructional framework, another was over multi-grade level instruction, and of course the third was over technology integration. The learning targets that we really wanted you to walk away with and focus on were, number one, we want you to be able to describe the benefits of technology to your instruction. Number two, we want you to be able to explain the importance of creating a culture of technology. And that is including the usage by students and by teachers. Number three, we want you to be able to include technology as an opportunity to serve as an instructional tool for the teacher and a resource for the students. Number four, we wanted to see lesson plans that included technology implementation. That's your evidence that you are being forward-thinking and planning strategically to implement technology to engage your students. And number five, we wanted you to develop rituals and routines to create a classroom culture of and for technology integration. So we introduced this little pictorial discussion in our session where we talked about what teachers used to do and what students currently are able to do. And what we deduced was this: both teacher and student have the same goal, which is to turn off and on a light. The difference is their modalities. Sometimes we find teachers working way too hard to do something that could be done or simplified through the use of technology. And those things that we can't do, students have enough knowledge that they can help us to do it, or they can do it on their own. We just need to allow them the opportunity to do so. So in this video, I will be facilitating this discussion a little bit deeper, looking at practical ways this is done, and trying to have some strong, powerful takeaways for teachers. So let's talk about the resources that you currently have at your disposal. You have study buddies, you have gizmos, you have access to Odyssey-ware, you have an interactive whiteboard, you have vocabulary, and you also have access to USA Test Prep, which is critical as you create your informal and formal summative and formative assessments. So in the mini lesson, we really wanted to define two things for you. Number one, we wanted to define classroom culture. Can anybody give me a summary of what you think classroom culture is? Seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hopefully your definition looked or sounded something like this. Classroom culture is the abstract, learned, and shared rules and standards for generating behavior and understanding experiences. Classroom culture is key in how you develop and create learning opportunities. The second thing we wanted to define was classroom technology. And we define classroom technology broadly as any tool a teacher uses to convey the lesson or interact with students. It can range from something that's very high-tech, like interactive whiteboards, to something very low-tech, as simple as using a marker or a calculator. It doesn't really matter the tech of the technology. What's important is that's a digital tool that's being used to help students to learn. Then we went into the acronym BET, B-E-T. BET is critical as we look at our student population, which could look something like this. So when you look at the faces of these students, how would you describe the quality of instruction needed to meet their needs, and talk about why? Let's take 3 to 5 minutes to share out loud this particular question. You can pause the video at the time, and when you finish, you can come back. Now, I'm sure you had some great conversations. In those conversations, I'm hoping that you included some topics related to student diversities, student interests, student motivations, student strengths, student weaknesses, differences in backgrounds, differences in experiences, and differences in goals, values, and morals that all relate to factors that will impact or impede learning and progress. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So let's move forward because we still have to talk about BET. So as we talk about BET, let's see what you remember. Who can tell me what the B in BET stands for? Hopefully someone said build a good rapport with your students. In a classroom culture, this is most important. This uses available resources to learn as much as possible about the students. This can happen with conversations. You can look in JTS, look at their IEPs, look at Infinite Campus, look at their achievement history. But you want to know your students. You want to know who you're dealing with, and you want to know ways in which you can help them. What about the E? What does the E stand for in BET? Hopefully you said establish your rituals. So first you want to build a good rapport, then you want to establish your rituals. You want to ask the question, what are my non-negotiables? Then create the atmosphere to accommodate that those rituals are implemented daily. And what about the T? The T is teach the routine. So first, build a good rapport. 2, establish your rituals. And 3, teach the routines. What are those? These are the things that you want your students to do consistently. And all of your routines should follow along with the rituals that you set in place. So BET, build a good rapport, establish your rituals, and teach a routine. Then we had you go into a work session where you did an anchor chart. Thank you for that. You guys had some great ideas and ways that you can BET. Take 3 to 5 minutes and just share out what you think you can do or things you're currently doing to BET with your staff. You can pause the video at the time, and when you're finished with the discussion after 5 minutes, you can come back. Thank you so much for sharing with each other. Hopefully you guys had some takeaways just from listening to what other people are currently doing in their classroom along the lines of BET that maybe you can try to implement. So let's move forward. So when we talk about high quality instruction, instruction can look so many different ways. In this next session or section of the training, this is where we're going to dive deeper into looking at integrating technology into our instruction. So this is going to be a lot of discussion, very interactive. Please be engaged, please be involved, please be open, really share things that you have trepidations about or things that you are excited about as it relates to technology integration. So when we talk about instruction, it can look so many different ways. Instruction can look like this, where students are moving around and you're focused on a particular student who may have some weaknesses. Kids can be using computers, and you're facilitating that process as the mini lesson or the practice is already created for you. You just want to make sure that kids are understanding, check-in, checking out, asking specific individualized questions to each of your students. It could look like whole group instruction, where in your traditional setting you have a whiteboard and you're calling on kids and kids are raising their hands, ready and eager to answer your question. It could look like this. Students are sitting in groups and you're able to sit with students in a group or sit with a particular student and provide individual support based on their weaknesses that you've already identified through assessment practices. It could look like this. Now you're at the whiteboard. Kids have technology in their hands and you're still providing opportunity for learning to happen. It can be chaotic. It could be very rigid. It depends on what works best for you. The goal is that kids are learning. But do remember, as it relates to technology, you already have things that are at your fingertips. Study buddies, gizmos, Odyssey work, interactive whiteboard, vocabulary, USA test prep. You already have these things. Let's find ways that we can use them. So let's look at in practice examples of technology integration. So we're going to watch two separate videos, but I first have to give you some instructions before we go into these videos. So number one, remember, you want to implement technology with the use of BET. 2, create weekly lesson plans that identify technology usages aligned to GSE so that you can increase student engagement and self-directed learning. 3, implement technology lessons at least once a week for each of your courses or for each of your grades that you do teach. And number 4, utilize your district purchase technology resources to help you integrate it. So here is a task that you have before you. Each person or persons who may be coupled up will be assigned a learning focus question. That's on the next slide. If you have a smaller staff, you may have more than one question that you would have to answer. Once the question is assigned, as a whole group, you will watch the video, and the video will model technology integration. Each assigned person will facilitate the answering of that question with the group for 2 to 3 minutes, but you should have already answered the question yourself. Okay, number 4, you have the responsibility of capturing what the group's takeaways were for each of the questions. And then number 5, try to use evidence from the video to support your thoughts or your answers to each of these questions. Okay, take a few seconds, look over the task again. Pause, go ahead and assign questions on the next slide. And then once you have finished assigning the questions and move to the next slide, come back in and we'll move forward. Here are the questions that you need to assign. Number 1, what changes did the teachers make to their instruction? Number 2, how did the changes benefit teachers? 3, how did the changes benefit students? 4, discuss potential opportunities and obstacles. And 5, what are some practices that can be implemented with fidelity in your building to better integrate instructional technology? Go ahead and assign these questions. Pause the video now. Once the questions have been assigned, you can unpause the video. Okay, great. Hopefully all of the questions have been assigned and we are ready to move on to watching the first video. Here we go.